Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, heavy clashes between the Syrian military and rebels that included hardline Islamist factions were reported in the southern Quneitra province, adjacent to the border with Israel, causing air and fire to hit Israeli territory, prompting an Israeli response. The Iranian-Lebanese proxy Hezbollah warns Israel to consider its future actions, noting that its future war with Syria or Lebanon could draw thousands of fighters from countries across the Muslim world. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, following a meeting with his Jordanian counterpart Ayman Safadi in Jordan's capital Amman, warns that the crisis in the Middle East has had an impact on world peace while describing the region as a barrel bomb. Heavy clashes between the Syrian military and rebels that included hardline Islamist factions were reported in the Quneitra province, located adjacent to the border with Israel. During the course of the clashes, 10 projectiles from inside Syria exploded on the Israeli side of the border. No injuries were reported, yet minor damage was caused to an agricultural field. Even though the Israeli military described the shell fire into Israeli territory as errant fire, it defined the incident as an unacceptable breach of the country's sovereignty and responded with airstrikes on the positions the projectiles were launched from, as well as several Syrian military installations, emphasizing that the IDF used the Syrian regime of Bashar Assad as solely responsible for any attacks emanating from the war-torn country. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, during his weekly cabinet meeting, warned Israel's enemies that the Jewish state will not tolerate any spillover from any of its fronts, while signaling Iran that it would respond with force to its attempts to establish itself militarily in close proximity with Israel.
צה"ל תקף אמש מטרות של צבא סוריה. זו הייתה תגובה תקיפה לירי של פצצות מרגמה לשטחנו. המדיניות שלנו ברורה. איננו מקבלים טפטוף מכל סוג שהוא. לא מרגמות, לא רקטות, לא זליגת ירי, מכל סוג שהוא, בכל חזית שהיא. אנחנו מגיבים בעוצמה על כל פגיעה בשטחנו או באזרחנו. מעבר לכך, אנחנו רואים בחומרה את הניסיונות של איראן להתבסס צבאית בסוריה, והניסיונות לצייד את חיזבאללה בנשק מתקדם דרך סוריה ולבנון.
The general command of the Syrian army responded to Israel's reprisal attacks and threats of additional spillovers from the war-torn country, warning that Syria holds its, quote, Israeli enemy responsible for the dangerous consequences of the recurrence of these operations, end quote. The Iranian-Lebanese proxy Hezbollah also warned Israel to consider its future actions in Syria, stressing that its future war with Syria or Lebanon could draw thousands of fighters from countries including Iran, Iraq, and Yemen.
ويجب أن يعرف العدو الإسرائيلي أنه إذا شن حربا إسرائيلية على سوريا أو على لبنان فمش معلوم القتال يبقى لبناني إسرائيلي أو سوري إسرائيلي. هذا لا يعني أنني أقول أن هناك دول قد تتدخل بشكل مباشر، ولكن قد تفتح الأجواء لعشرات آلاف بل مئات آلاف المجاهدين والمقاتلين من كل أنحاء العالم العربي والإسلامي ليكونوا شركاء في هذه المعركة، من العراق ومن اليمن ومن كل مكان آخر، ومن إيران ومن أفغانستان ومن باكستان. من يقول بأن إذا قرر العدو أن يعتدي أو أن يشن حربا أن الحرب ستكون يعني مثل 2006 ومشاكل؟ لا. اليوم محور المقاومة يتعاطى أنه معني بمصير واحد.
The comments by Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah indicates that the Iranian-backed Shiite militias fighting in the various conflicts in the region have vowed to come to Hezbollah's aid if the rising tension with Israel would escalate to an all-out war, a conflict which Israel's Air Force chief warned would see the Jewish state use all of its strengths from the start as opposed to previous wars that have significantly restrained Israel's need to apply its full military capabilities. Meanwhile, in Syria, the battle over the Islamic State-held territory continues to escalate, with US-backed forces managing to assert their control over a neighborhood to the west of the extreme Muslim group's de facto capital, Raqqa. While the Syrian Democratic Forces, which include Arab and Kurdish fighters and are supported with airstrikes by the US-led coalition, began their offensive some 2.5 weeks ago to seize the northern city from the Islamic State, the Syrian regime, backed by Shiite militias in Iran, as well as Russian air support, continued to advance on the city from the southwest in an attempt to thwart the US-backed forces from controlling the entire district, as the regime seeks to control a strip of land that would effectively connect western Syria with its eastern border, providing it with an on-land supply route from Iran through Iraq into Syria and Lebanon. Now to Jordan, where Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, following a meeting with his Jordanian counterpart, Ayman Safadi, in the country's capital, Amman, warned that the crisis in the Middle East has had an impact on world peace, describing the region as a barrel bomb, before saying that the political dialogue is needed to resolve the various conflicts raging across the chaotic region.
中东现在是世界上最大的火药桶，中东不安稳，世界难有太平。中东持续的动荡及伤害地区各国，也对世界的和平与发展构成了冲击。我们衷心的希望中东能够尽快的恢复和平稳定。那么目前困扰中东的几个热点问题，实际上都同民族、教派、地缘矛盾纠缠在一起。这些问题，历史已经证明，军事手段是解决不了的。关键还是要用政治途径来找到既符合。
One of the aims of the Chinese top diplomat's visit to Jordan, a country that together with Israel borders Syria's south, is to hold top-level discussions on the latest developments in the region, as well as Beijing's aspiration to increase its involvement in finding a solution to the 6-year-long conflict in the war-torn country.
新的作用，中国我们作为安理会的常任理事国，我们一直关注叙利亚的问题。我们不仅为叙利亚难民提供了连续的无偿的紧急的援助，我们也在很多国际和多边场合，那么来为叙利亚问题的解决，来阐述我们的立场，发挥我们的作用。我们也愿意同约旦方面一起来为叙利亚问题的最终解决来继续做出我们的努力。谢谢。
هذا الحل السياسي يجب أن يحفظ وحدة سوريا الترابية، يجب أن يحفظ تماسك سوريا، ويجب أن يؤدي إلى توافق سياسي يقبل به الشعب السوري بما يضمن أن تنتقل سوريا إلى مرحلة من الأمن والأمان، وأن يتم تخليص سوريا أيضا من كل القوى الإرهابية التي تلحق الدمار والقتل بها وبشعبها.
Since the beginning of the conflict in Syria, more than 500,000 people have lost their lives. The chaos in the country has also caused the most severe refugee crisis since World War II, with the international community still incapable of resolving the dire situation. Thank you for watching us. You can also watch us at TV7IsraelNews.com or TV7.fi. For any comments, please send your emails to israelnews@tv7.fi. For more updates from Israel and the region, please join our Facebook page at TV7 Israel News. Praying for the peace of Israel and the peace of Jerusalem. Jonathan Hassan, Erev Tov and Shavua Tov. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time.
In order to donate to TV7 Israel News, please follow these simple steps. First, press the Donate logo, located at the bottom left side of TV7 Israel News Facebook page, or on the Donate tab at the head of the page. Then insert the amount you'd like to donate, and fill in your credit card information. Just like this. And press Review Donation and continue. After reviewing your donation details, please press Donate to finalize your donation. That's it! Your donation is now complete, and an email with your donation details has been sent to your email address. You can also print your donation receipt by pressing the link here. Thank you for supporting TV7 Israel News.